At Beijing Daxing International Airport, AI controls who boards, where your bags go, which gate your aircraft pulls into, and how 100 million passengers move through the terminal every year without a single bottleneck forming. 100 million people. That is, every man, woman, and child in Germany processed through one building annually. Wrap your head around that. And the moment you walk through those doors, the system already knows your name, your flight, and exactly where you're supposed to be. To understand what China actually built here and what it means for the rest of the world, you need to start from the very beginning. The starfish that sees everything. Imagine you are landing at Daxing for the first time. From the air, you look down, and your brain genuinely struggles to process what you are seeing. It is not a building. It is not a campus. It looks like a living creature. 5 enormous arms stretching outward from a glowing central core, each one over half a mile long, the whole structure spreading across the plains south of Beijing, like something that was not built by human hands. The locals call it the starfish. It was designed by Iraqi-British architect Zaha Hadid, a woman whose buildings looked like they arrived from 50 years in the future. She died in 2016. 3 years before Daxing opened its doors. She never got to see what she had created. You step off the plane and into a terminal that cost $17 billion to build. When you add the high-speed rail connections, the expressways, and the metro links, the full infrastructure bill reaches $63 billion. To build the terminal itself, workers used 200,000 tons of steel, the same amount used to construct China's first aircraft carrier. During the 5 years it took to build, the construction teams were completing the structural equivalent of one 18-story building every single day. The terminal covers over 7.5 million square feet, 97 American football fields under one continuous roof. And yet you walk to your gate, and you are there in under 8 minutes. Because no matter where your gate is in this building, you are never more than 600 meters from the central hub. In a structure the size of a small city, the walk to your gate is shorter than the walk through most suburban shopping malls. That is not luck. That is what happens when you engineer a building around a brain and then give that brain artificial intelligence. But what almost nobody realizes when they walk through Daxing for the first time is that the building is not just aware of them. It is already several steps ahead of them. The moment your face becomes your passport, you approach the check-in area. Your hand moves toward your pocket. Passport. Boarding pass, old habits, you will not need either. A camera above the kiosk scans your face. 1 second, not 2, not 3, 1. The system matches your face to China's national identity database, retrieves your booking, confirms your flight, and checks you in. No paper, no card, no conversation with a human being. You drop your bag. An RFID chip activates the moment it leaves your hand. From that point, your bag does not move a single inch without the system tracking its exact location in real time. You can follow it on your phone. The AI routing system sends it down the correct conveyor to the correct carousel without a single human decision made along the way. You reach security. The AI-powered screening system processes 4 passengers per checkpoint per minute, continuously, without pause. A full wide-body aircraft of passengers clears in under 20 minutes. 90% of all passenger touchpoints at Daxing are fully automated. 86% of check-ins are handled through self-service kiosks. These were not future targets announced on opening day. These were the numbers on opening day. And when you exit the terminal, a self-driving taxi is already waiting. No driver, no dispatch call. The airport's AI has already coordinated your arrival with the autonomous vehicle network operating at the curb. You tap start, and it pulls cleanly into the expressway. That launched commercially at Daxing in 2024, but this is the layer of the airport that passengers actually see. What is running beneath it is something most people have absolutely no idea exists, and it is the part that makes aviation professionals genuinely nervous. The brain beneath the building. Most airports are run by people. Gate agents assign aircraft to stands. Operations managers watch departure boards and make judgment calls on delays. Ground crews coordinate by radio. Baggage handlers route luggage based on experience built over decades. At Daxing, one centralized AI command system does all of that simultaneously across every moving part of the entire airport every second of every day. The system ingests data from thousands of sources at once: weather sensors, runway condition monitors, live airline schedule feeds, real-time aircraft tracking, passenger flow cameras covering every corridor and concourse, baggage belt sensors, retail congestion alerts, ground vehicle GPS positioning. All of it feeds into a single AI architecture that holds the complete picture at once and issues decisions in real time, not to inform humans, but to act directly. Take gate allocation. At a traditional airport, assigning the right aircraft to the right gate is a planning task that operations teams work on hours in advance, accounting for turnarounds, ground crew positioning, and connecting passengers. At Daxing, the AI handles this, predictively modeling all of those variables simultaneously, finding the optimal assignment before the aircraft has even entered Chinese airspace. And when something breaks, a delay, a conflict, a sudden weather change, the system does not wait for a human to notice. It recalculates instantly, adjusting every downstream decision before the disruption has a chance to cascade through the schedule. Out on the apron, autonomous baggage tractors run their routes without drivers. The UISEE 30 model, equipped with 4 LiDAR sensors, 6 high-definition cameras, and precision GPS, navigates between aircraft stands and baggage sorting areas fully unmanned. It detects obstacles. It brakes itself. It docks precisely. No radio call, no human in the loop, no error. Inside the terminal, Huawei's Wi-Fi positioning system tracks passenger density across every section of the building in real time and automatically opens or closes security channels to distribute the load before queues form. 10 humanoid service robots and 10 AI-powered interactive kiosks assist passengers in multiple languages. Dynamic wayfinding signage updates in real time based on where the AI has determined crowds are moving. The airport does not react to problems after they form. It prevents them from forming at all. But here is what nobody in the glossy promotional material mentions. The deeper you go into what Daxing is actually capable of, the more the question shifts from "how does this work?" to something far more uncomfortable: the surveillance nobody warned you about. Here is what the brochures do not tell you. The same system that makes your boarding seamless, that reads your face, tracks your bag, and processes your identity in 1 second, is also one of the most comprehensive passenger surveillance architectures ever built into a civilian facility. The facial recognition infrastructure at Daxing was supplied in part by SenseTime, one of China's largest AI companies. In 2021, the United States government placed SenseTime on its trade blacklist, citing its role in building mass surveillance systems. The computer vision at Daxing does not simply match your face to your boarding pass. It ties your appearance to a national identity record. The cameras that monitor passenger flow can identify individuals, track their movement through the entire terminal, match them to their registered luggage, and flag anomalies in real time without any human initiating a search query. Leave a bag unattended. The system identifies you. It tracks where you walked afterward. Security is alerted before a human officer has registered that anything is wrong. Every gate passage is logged. Every security scan is time-stamped and tied to your biometric record. From the moment you entered the building to the moment you boarded, your entire path through that terminal exists as a permanent data record associated with your identity. And now the story pivots hard. Because Western observers look at this and see a privacy catastrophe, China looks at it and sees frictionless efficiency. The gap between those two interpretations is not a matter of philosophy. It is the precise reason China could build this airport and why no Western democracy currently has anything remotely like it. But Daxing was never built to exist on its own. The prototype for something much bigger. Here is the thing about Daxing that almost everyone covering it gets wrong. This airport was not built to impress the world. It was built to prove something to China. Beijing's National Smart Infrastructure Strategy, outlined in planning documents from the National Development and Reform Commission, explicitly describes airports, rail terminals, and transit hubs as integrated nodes inside a single AI-coordinated national logistics network. Daxing is not the destination. It is the first physical proof that the model works. Think about what that means in practice. When your high-speed train departs a Beijing station heading for Daxing, the airport's AI is already tracking it. It knows your train's arrival time to the minute. It knows which passengers aboard are connecting to outbound flights. It has already begun incorporating your arrival into its gate allocation models, its security flow predictions, and its retail staffing calculations before your train has even left the city. By the time that train pulls into the underground station directly beneath the terminal floor, because Daxing is the world's first airport with high-speed intercity rail lines engineered into the building's own foundation, the airport already knows you are there. 2 underground railway stations and 3 metro lines run beneath the terminal building. The driverless Daxing Airport Express connects the terminal to central Beijing in just 19 minutes, running at over 100 miles per hour. 1,000 anti-seismic isolation bearings were embedded in the terminal's concrete slabs, so those trains can run under a fully operational airport without disturbing a single flight above. The AI at the center of Daxing does not manage only what happens inside its walls. It treats the entire surrounding transportation network as an extension of itself, coordinating with metro systems, intercity rail timetables, and expressway traffic data simultaneously, treating a 300-mile rail journey and a gate assignment as variables in the same equation. No airport in history has been built this way, and China is not stopping at one. The same model is being deployed at Shanghai Pudong, Guangzhou Baiyun, and airports across the country, not as isolated upgrades, but as connected nodes, feeding into a national system, each one learning, each one sharing data with the center, each one tightening the network. But this is when the story stops being about airports. What Daxing reveals about China's real ambition. Step back from the terminal. Stop thinking about boarding passes and baggage carousels and facial recognition kiosks, because what China built at Daxing is not, at its core, an aviation achievement. It is a demonstration of state capacity, a public proof of what happens when a centralized government decides something needs to exist and removes every obstacle between the decision and the outcome. Construction at Daxing began in 2014. The airport opened on schedule in September 2019. 5 years. From empty farmland in Hebei province to the most technologically advanced passenger terminal ever built. Now compare that to the rest of the world. Heathrow's third runway has been in political debate since 2015. It has not been built. A judicial review blocked it in 2020 on environmental grounds. The debate continues. Berlin-Brandenburg Airport spent 14 years under construction, opened 6 years behind its original schedule, and accumulated cost overruns so severe they became a national symbol of institutional failure. New York's JFK renovation, a project a fraction of Daxing's complexity, has been grinding through planning for years, with completion dates that keep moving. And these are not small, under-resourced countries. These are some of the wealthiest and most sophisticated nations on the planet. Then came the question nobody wants to answer directly. Why is China so much faster? The honest answer is uncomfortable. A centralized state can bypass the environmental appeals, the planning objections, the contractor disputes, the political opposition, and the procurement delays that add years, sometimes decades, to infrastructure in democratic systems. There is no judicial review that reverses a decision made at the top. There is no election cycle that changes the funding commitment halfway through construction. You can debate whether that trade-off is worth making. Reasonable people disagree. But you cannot debate the output. China decided Daxing needed to exist. 5 years later, it existed fully operational, exactly as designed, on time. That same state capacity is now being directed at ports, rail corridors, smart city grids, energy systems, and manufacturing hubs, all moving toward a single endpoint. A nationally integrated AI infrastructure, where coordination that currently requires thousands of human decisions happens automatically, invisibly, and continuously. Daxing is the clearest working window into that ambition that currently exists anywhere on Earth. But the most unsettling chapter of this story is not what China built for itself. The gap the rest of the world cannot close quickly. Here is a number that deserves far more attention than it gets. The United States processes roughly 900 million passengers per year across all its airports combined. To handle that volume, American airports rely on a patchwork of legacy technology. Some terminals running software and infrastructure designed in a different era entirely. TSA PreCheck, global entry, The scattered biometric pilots, running at a handful of gates in a handful of terminals, these are incremental improvements, bolted onto systems that were built long before artificial intelligence existed as a practical tool. Daxing was designed from a blank piece of land with AI at the center of the architecture, not retrofitted on top of an existing system, but integrated before a single foundation was poured. That distinction matters more than almost anything else in this comparison. When AI is built into the foundation of an infrastructure system, everything talks to everything else as a single organism. Gates, baggage, security, crowd flow, ground operations, all of it coordinated in real time by one brain with a complete picture. When you retrofit AI onto legacy infrastructure, you are making individual parts smarter inside a machine that was never designed to communicate with itself. You can optimize the pieces. You cannot make the whole thing intelligent. Closing that gap is not a software update. It requires demolishing what already exists and rebuilding from scratch. And that means displacing airlines from operational terminals, renegotiating decades-long leases, navigating environmental law, surviving contractor disputes, and outlasting multiple election cycles without the funding commitment evaporating. In the time a Western airport authority completes a feasibility study for a single terminal upgrade, China has designed, funded, broken ground on, built, and opened the next generation version. And then came the development that most people covering this story are still not talking about: the export of a model. For the past several years, airports across Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and Sub-Saharan Africa have been inviting Chinese firms in not just to construct terminals, but to install the entire operational model. The AI systems, the biometric frameworks, the centralized command architecture, the same integrated stack that runs Daxing is being offered, packaged, and deployed to governments that want modern airports, lack the regulatory frameworks to resist its surveillance components, and have no legacy systems to work around. This is the dimension that Western intelligence agencies are watching with the most concern. Because when a country builds its airport's AI backbone using Chinese technology, the data flowing through that system does not stay neatly inside that country's borders. Passenger identities, international travel patterns, behavioral data, movement records of foreign nationals, diplomats, business travelers, and government officials from dozens of countries, all flowing through an architecture designed, built, and in many cases maintained by Chinese firms. That is not a hypothetical risk. It is the logical and structural consequence of infrastructure dependency. And infrastructure dependencies, once built into the operational core of a national transit system, are not something you quietly unplug and replace. The airport is built around the brain. Remove the brain, and the airport stops functioning. China watched for decades as Western countries used financial systems, telecommunications infrastructure, and internet protocols to project influence and gather intelligence globally. Daxing is not just an airport. For every country that adopts its model, it is the beginning of an infrastructure relationship, a data relationship, a dependency that compounds over time. The airport that started as Beijing's solution to aviation overcrowding has become something the original architects may not even have intended. It is a template. It is spreading. And the governments adopting it are doing so faster than the governments warning against it can respond. The airport already knows you are coming. You are back in the terminal. The AI has processed hundreds of thousands of faces today. It rerouted passenger flow through 3 concourses this morning to prevent congestion that never appeared because it was corrected before it could form. It has reassigned 17 aircraft gates since dawn based on live flight data. It tracked every unattended bag, identified every owner within seconds, and resolved every incident before a single public announcement was made. Out on the apron, autonomous vehicles are running their routes. Beneath the floor, a high-speed train is pulling in, carrying over 1,000 passengers the airport has already begun accounting for. In the operations center, no one is raising their voice. No one is making frantic calls. The system is doing precisely what it was designed to do, at a scale no human team could coordinate. You walk to your gate. No passport out. No boarding pass fumbled from a pocket. A camera reads your face. A green light blinks. You walk through. You sit down, and you think about what you just moved through. A building that went from empty land to fully operational in 5 years, on schedule, on spec, without a single missed deadline. That cost $63 billion and delivered on every promise. That processes tens of millions of passengers with no queues, no lost bags, no bottlenecks, because the AI solves problems before they exist. You think about the airports you have been through in other countries. The paper boarding passes printed at home, the manual bag tags, the gate agent with a clipboard, checking names one by one, the departure board with a spinning wheel that means nobody knows when your flight is leaving. And then you think about the gap, not just in technology, in speed, in will, in the structural ability to decide something needs to exist and then make it exist without a decade of debate, without a judicial review, without a funding reversal 2 governments later. Daxing opened in 2019. The countries currently studying whether to modernize their airport infrastructure are having the exact same conversations they were having when the first foundation was poured at Daxing. China did not wait for the debate to end. It built the answer. It proved the model. It is now exporting it to the world. The green light blinks. The door opens. The airport already knew you were coming.